Tammy, Chris, thanks for joining us. We're here on International Women's Day. Of course, Tammy, we'll start off with you. Just how important is this day for you?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think actually a few years ago I kind of struggled to see potentially the importance of it, but actually the more you kind of realise how important it is and kind of how far potentially women have got to go to gain equality, actually it's massive to have a day of recognition and also look at how far we've come, particularly in a sporting context. I think getting that day to kind of reflect on the journey that you've kind of been on, but also kind of keep seeing what's next to conquer, really.
Yeah, and Chris, as a father of two girls yourself, how important is it that them growing up now, they have that visibility to be the next Tammy Beaumont, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. Really, the fact that they've got that, you've got something to look towards and inspire to. Tammy obviously is a key figure in that. The girls and the women's team have done some fantastic things over the recent years, not just to promote the game, but to obviously, to perform the way they have as well within their international game has been fantastic. So, yeah, as you touch on, yeah, to be the father of two girls, it'd be, I'd be delighted if they were to take up the game. It'd be a, really, I say, proud moment for me. But obviously, at the same time, the girls are doing a fantastic job at the minute to make sure the game's in the best place possible for these younger girls growing up to hopefully come into the game.
And Tammy, we're speaking with Chris here, who's a current men's international cricketer. How important is it to have someone like Chris's profile publicly supporting the women's game and championing it?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely massive to have someone like Chris as an ally to the women's game, and really kind of being outspoken about that. I think is brilliant, and I think it's actually kind of the last few years the way things have been, particularly with the 100 or the way things have been marketed. I think it's kind of brought the two games a lot closer together, and there's a lot more kind of bouncing back and forwards. And actually, it just feels like cricket. It doesn't feel like you have to label it as men's or women's. Like obviously, it always has that label, but actually, there's so much more um, conversation going on around all of it. And I think it's just great to have voices, not just women's voices, kind of championing that.
And we've seen in the 100, actually, the Manchester Originals had it last year where they had both the men's and the women's side spend a lot of time together. So it is, as you say, that united front. Is that something you experienced with Welsh Fire, or is that something maybe you're looking to do in this 100, for example?
Yeah, I think it's certainly something we did this year. I think in previous years potentially haven't, but I think the fire in particular seems like quite a family vibe. A lot of the lads had their wives or girlfriends down. We've got a couple of kids from a couple of our players, and just a real kind of family vibe. We even have a couple of dogs that come along. My dog comes along, so it's an absolute massive family vibe. A lot of kind of social time spent together. I think a lot of the time, because a lot aren't from Cardiff themselves, it does become a bit of a hub, our team hotel, and yeah, we turn it a bit red and try and just get everyone involved, really, which is great.
And Chris, for you, we're speaking here ahead of the joint series against Pakistan in May. Is there any plans in place for the men's to go watch the women's team, and then maybe Tammy for you, vice versa? We'll start off with you, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know exact plans as of now, but I think there should definitely be something like that put in place. I think, as you said, for the fact that the series is being played, effectively alongside each other, align the series, I think is really important. And I think, as Tammy said, I think the two teams, both the men and the women, it's never been as close as it is now. I think there's a lot of talk between the players at venues, as you said, around the 100 games, and it's brought the two games together. And effectively, that game now is effectively one, which is the way it should be. And hopefully, that's only going to develop moving forward. So hopefully there is something where the two teams can get to see each other play, and I think that's why these series are put together and have been developed the way they are, is to try and, I suppose, promote that as much as possible and get people watching England cricket as a whole, not just the men and the women.
And for you, Tammy?
Yes, I certainly hope so. I know we made an effort to come down to Edgbaston for the Ashes Test, and we've obviously got a game at Edgbaston this time, so Woakes is only down the road, so that should be the one he comes to.
Absolutely.
So we've also seen the ECB last summer introduce equal match fees for both the men's and the women's side. Aside from the money itself, just how important is that, Tammy, for you, that it's more about equality, isn't it, and equal fitting as opposed to the money itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the big thing, isn't it? It's about equality, and for me, I don't think equality necessarily means absolutely equal pay yet. I think it's kind of a scale of what revenue you bring in and that type of thing. And but actually, for me, it's the equal opportunity. I think that's the big one that absolutely every single one of my teammates want. It's we want to play at the big venues. We want to play in prime time. Um, days of the week and time slots, which we had for the Ashes last year, and exactly the same for this Pakistan series. Kind of making sure that we didn't clash with the men's Ashes Test. We kind of played the day after, or T20s were 7 o'clock at night, making sure that we had a prime slot and the men had a prime slot, and we weren't clashing. And that kind of, to me, is how we start to get equality, because then we're actually, if we're 2 o'clock on a Tuesday outside of school holidays, no one's coming. So you can never sell the game. Whereas now we're starting to sell the game. We've already got record ticket sales for this summer, already ahead of last year. And, it was an Ashes summer, which is massive. So for me, I think the equal kind of financial rewards will kind of get there because of getting equal opportunity first, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it does. And Chris, for you did some punditry work for the 100. You saw the crowds at the women's game. Just how refreshing was that to turn up to the big grounds and see the attendances last year, especially, and as Tammy said, even more this year coming up?
Yeah, amazing, really. Like you say, I think that's the one real benefit and positive that has come out of the 100. I was obviously seeing big crowds at women's games, and I think Tammy just touched on it there. I'm biased to Edgbaston, but whenever we got down there, there was a great crowd for both the men and the women, really supporting the teams. And I think Tammy's hit the nail on the head. I think playing in the big venues is really important moving forward. I think they should obviously get the opportunity to play at these venues, but also I think that inspires young girls and young boys to go and watch and to see their role models playing in these amazing test venues that have so much history and people have seen for many years. I think having that opportunity is huge, and I think we're moving in the right direction with that. But as you touched on at the start of the question, the 100 has been an absolute revelation for both the men and the women's game, I believe, and has certainly pushed it in the right direction.
And we've seen the women's side have the appearance at the Commonwealth Games. We've got cricket at the Olympics being touted as well. So Tammy, is it more a case of the ceiling is there is no ceiling for the women's game? You're starting to have spin camps, pace bowling camps, and that sort of stuff. So the development of the women's game has been huge recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's how quickly the game is growing and accelerating rapidly. I think the standard just seems to go up every single series you play. No matter who you're playing against, everyone's hitting further boundaries, bowling faster, fielding better. I think that's just because of the professionalism of the game. And yeah, it's kind of great to see how far it could go with the likes of things in the Commonwealth Games, Olympics, just getting that game to a wider audience. Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be part of the game, and yeah, I think the sky's the limit, really.
And obviously the English summer starts off with that Pakistan series, but there's two T20 World Cups this year. There's one in Bangladesh for the women's, one's in the West Indies and USA for the men's as well. So we'll start off with you, Tammy. How excited are you for 2024 as a whole?
Yeah, it's a massive year for us. We've got pretty much back-to-back cricket from sort of now until in December time, when I think we've got a test match in South Africa for the first time in years and years. So it's a really exciting year, and yeah, hopefully be part of that T20 in Bangladesh. I think it would be a great tournament to go to, and probably one of the most high standards women's tournaments so far. So yeah, it's a really exciting time to be part of this England team.
And Chris, for you obviously missing the India series that's going on at the minute, but staying fresh ahead of the IPL and then the T20 World Cup later in the year.
Yeah. There's some real busy cricket. I mean, there's always a schedule to work towards, isn't there? It seems to be packed all the time nowadays. So, yeah, a nice little breather at home before what is going to be a busy IPL, and then hopefully into a World Cup in the West Indies and the States, as you mentioned. There's always feels like there's a big tournament or a big series around the corner nowadays. So, yeah, exciting year ahead, and fingers crossed it can be a really rewarding one for both the men and the women.
And Tammy, just finally, looking ahead then, do you think we will see a time, or when do you think we'll see the time that, for example, Sue Redfern's just become the first women's umpire to manage in a men's international? When do you think will be the time we stop saying the first women and it just considered as the norm, really, that this is an equal sport for everyone, no matter male
I think
or
that's a
female?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be long. I think, the fact that, people are being the first, I think you see in the Rugby Six Nations now, I don't think it's unusual to see a lines person be a woman. You're seeing it in football more and more. I think it's great, really. I think it'll probably be a couple of years, and it'll just be the norm to see any sex or gender officiating in any kind of sport.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.